So this will be the first video, and the first meeting we went to that we wanted to get this started on was the Powell County Fiscal Court meeting. And so we first got there, and I stood up and introduced myself and let them know about the new committee, the Powell County Oversight Committee, and what our purpose was. And that purpose was to bring more transparency, to be another bridge of communication between the public outside and these meetings that are taking place, and to ensure accountability for our elected officials in those capacities. So hopefully, I was thinking keeping these videos at about 30 seconds or so, but I don't know if we're going to be able to get that. But if we can get a little feedback from this first video, you can let me know. So first and foremost, we're not here to, we're here to hold accountability. So, I mean, the truth is the truth. So we started out with asking them to be more transparent, and they said they were. An open door is an open door, but what good does it do to come in and sit in front of a person at a desk and spill your heart and tell them what you think is wrong in your community, but then 50% of the time it gets resolved, 50% of the time it doesn't. It's a good couch session, if I would say. You can go in and tell them what you think, and then walk out of the office, and you feel better because you got it off your chest, but it may not anything happen from it. So with transparency being a part of it, I think all these meetings should be live streamed or recorded and then posted on a public site, so that you, as the general public, can go back and review and watch upon your discretion when you have free time. So we were told that the fiscal court meeting was available on Facebook through a couple pages, but after review, that was not the case. We reach out to the judge executive, we reach out to a constable, and we reach out to the person who recorded the video and posted it on their personal site. It's been 7 days, and you still can't go on. And if you're not friends with that person who posted it, you can't see the video. It's not on the government information page. It's if a magistrate shares it on their page and you're not friends with them. Well, actually, if you're not friends with the person who wrote it or videoed it first, anyways, you can't see it as a general public. So after 7 days and many asked, that's still not there. So as far as transparency, I'm not sure how you would interpret that. I would have liked to have reviewed the video and made more notes on this video, but that's not possible. So just so you know, the first thing that was brought up was the government takes too long to do things. When it comes to writing grants, they say it takes forever, but then you can have evidence that some grants can be written and fulfilled and the money delivered within 6 months. There's others, yes, that could take a while. I don't really know why, but when the government asks you to change something on your property or get something done or buy a permit or a fee, they expect you to do it within 30 days or less. But when it comes to getting something resolved in the county or your city or your town, it can take a lot longer. So time is an issue. The big thing with Powell County right now is its water and infrastructure, like water, sewer, roads, and the main thing is water. And we're told that our water is basically 95% capacity. We get all our water out of the Beach Fork Reservoir, and it's at 95% capacity. There's no room for growth. So, why? And they admitted that Powell County is at least 20 years behind everybody else. So I don't understand why why we're so far behind. We pay just as many taxes and fees, and we pay our utility bills. So I don't know why we can't move along and get more up to date with our water and sewer and infrastructure. We can't bring businesses or any more housing or any more success to Powell County unless we can improve our infrastructure. So infrastructure is a main issue. So to touch on that, though, there was a motion to get business back and going in the talks for getting the Clay City Industrial Park back on the scene and get it moving along. But we can't do that without infrastructure. And so they're thinking that it takes at least $24 to $40 million to get that project started in order to improve the infrastructure enough to get things like that going. So, what do you all think? Why are we 20 years behind when we pay just as much as anybody else does? So I'd like to know your all's comments. So, secondly is tourism in this town. So tourism has improved, and they made a comment that there was at least 8,000 visitors in the month of October, and year to date there was 51,000 people. So if everybody at least pays, $100 in taxes in tourism tax, that would have been 8,000 with 2 zeros on the end of it. That would be at least $800,000 in 1 month. So we could use that money to improve our infrastructure. I mean, Powell County has been booming in tourism for the past at least a couple years. So, I mean, if you can average $500,000 a month in taxes, I mean, if you take $51,000 year to date and you add 2 zeros to the end of it, then you have $5.1 million in just tourism tax. I mean, if they paid in $100 of transient tax, extra restaurant tax, extra alcohol tax, just tourism taxes, that's $5.1 million. Year to date, how are we spending that money? Where's it going? Why can't we invest it in infrastructure? Tourism is consuming our water. It is using our sewer. It is using our roads. It's using our parks. It's using our school fields for tournaments or games. But there's a big debate on that. But why can't we use tourism tax money? Some say it's a legislation issue. Tourism money taxes can only be used on certain things. So this is the election year. So you want to be looking out for candidates and politicians that are wanting to go to Frankfort and hopefully change some of that policy. Get us to where we can use this tax money where we need it. So again, tourism and money. And that piggybacks on Hollerwood. We found out some pretty interesting information on Hollerwood. But did you know that it is owned or it's operated by the industrial board in Powell County? So I don't really understand why the industrial board is managing a tourist activity. I don't know why that doesn't fall under the tourism board, but it's a very weird pyramid of managers and operators, with the industrial board being on top, and then it had a couple more layers of managers underneath, and then it subcontracted out to some managers, and those managers, they subcontracted out to other people. Do you think the county should own or be vested in a tourism activity, or should that be 100% private? What's your thoughts? What's your comments? Because, I mean, should the taxpayers be spending money, taxes, going towards a Hollerwood? I'm all for capitalism. I'm all for opportunities, but does our county need to be involved in paying for that? I don't really know, but, what is your thoughts? So also, if I just think it gets way too complicated. There was talks about they can't manage it a certain way or they lose the opportunity for the grant. And the grant, I'm guessing from the way they said, pays the payment for the land that they have. So it's a really complicated issue. We also brought up some questions about environmental concerns. There's a lot of silt, a lot of runoff from these trails being heavily used and not maintained. It's filling up the creeks. There's one resident with an issue with a pond, and it fills up heavily now with mud and silt, and it's basically useless. What you could use to fish in and use for other watering purposes is not very useful here lately. It also, I'm all for you riding your side-by-sides on a blacktop. Got no problem with that. But when these side by sides are putting so much mud and rock and debris in the blacktop, it becomes a safety issue for the residents that have to travel that road. So what do you think? We were told they were going to work on putting a longer stretch of gravel down so that when the side by sides come up to it, they can run off some of the mud before they get to the blacktop. Not sure how that's going to work. They had an ideal for some stopping the erosion ideals. That one was probably a pretty good ideal, but I really don't see how they're going to keep the mud off the roads, and I'd really like to see them act on that because, it can be very slippery and dangerous. So we'll see how that goes. Also, they talked about the jail. I don't know if the general public keeps up with the jails, but I'd like to hear your all's comments. Do you think it's being managed well? What do you know how much it costs to operate a jail? Do you know how much tax money is involved in operating a jail? Do you know the ins and outs of what it costs you as a taxpayer? And are you aware if a jail operates in the black, meaning it makes money and it pays for itself, or is the jail in the red? Does it spend more money than it brings in? What do you think about a jail being ran as a business? Do you think we should be a jail that brings in so many inmates from the other parts of Kentucky, or should we have a jail that focuses on the people that are incarcerated because they broke a law, within Powell County or at least a neighboring county? What do you think on that? I had a big question about commissary. How familiar are you all with commissary? Do you think it's, we treat each other with dignity and respect, but when you're incarcerated, is it okay to charge you 2, 3, 4 times what it costs to buy toothpaste or deodorant out in public? So, if you bought a stick of deodorant for $2 at the dollar store, do you think it's okay to pay $6 for it in jail? What do you think? I don't know. Seems like taking advantage of people when they're already in trouble. But I was doing a little reading. Commissary is really used mostly by inmates because the food that they get, they're supposed to get 2,400 calories a day, which consists of 3 meals. So 2,400 divided by 3 get your calorie intake. But most inmates use commissary because that food does not fill them up or fulfill them, so they end up spending more money on commissary. So it's kind of like a double-sided sword. You feed them, but then you make sure they're still hungry enough or they aren't fulfilled enough, and they spend all that money on commissary to buy stuff to make themselves feel full. But Powell County Jail is looking to change vendors, and it already costs a little over $400,000 a year to feed 250 inmates on average 3 times a day, and they use an outside vendor. But they're wanting to change vendors, and they want that vendor, and that vendor, the smallest bid that came in to replace the current vendor, which is already over $400,000, is going to cost an extra like 40. I think it was in the mid 40s, an extra $40,000. So the 400,000 plus vendor that they have now, it's going to cost almost $500,000. What do you think? They were complaining. There was a few issues. I think some of y'all might have seen the issue with something happening with an employee and some inmates, but then they complained about food quality. So my ideal, what would you think if the jail just cooked and bought its own food and served and prepared its own food? I did a little research real quick. Boone County, Kentucky has a really good article on their website, and they really bragged on how well it worked for them to make their own food, produce their own food. They go out and buy their supplies, their groceries. They also had a community garden. They growed the vegetables, and they would use those. But they used them for 2 programs. They had the inmates learn to cook and prep food, which was a work course study, whatnot, that they could use that skill when they got out. So it had a double purpose. But they would cook the food and serve it at the jail. And then they also had a work program facility, something, I forget what it was. But they used the food there too. But they don't use an outside vendor. They said 95% of their food is prepared in-house, fresh, made from scratch. So, cornbread, bread, prep up the macaroni and cheese with the fresh noodles and throw in cheese. So, 95% of their food is prepared in-house. And it's more cost effective for the taxpayers. So what do you think about that? Should Powell County maybe look to invest in cooking their own food and providing food for themselves? So that was a big question. Let me know what you think. Don't want to have a lot of dead air, but I just, this is our ideal. We want to get the news out to people, and we want to have another form of communication. Like I said, we've not seen so much transparency in a lot of our government agencies that want to share these meetings with you. The city of Stanton does a pretty good job, but did you know how many boards there actually are in Powell County? I mean, there's a lot. You got water boards, library boards. I'm not sure about the fire yet, since we're all volunteer, but we have the extension office. Powell's Valley has a board. You can go listen to their meetings. Your school board, your city council boards, your fiscal court meeting. Clay City has board meetings. Very rarely hear anything from those. So let me know if there's a particular board that you would like to hear us go sit in on and take some notes and give you some feedback so that you can know what's going on. Just holding these entities accountable. We did learn, and if you could watch the video, some prior years there was deals being made with new companies coming in, and they didn't formally write these down on paper, these contracts. It was a verbal you to me deal, and then people left office and it changed hands, and now they go in and they're wanting to know, well, what did we say? What did we do? We had to go back, 5 years and look at minutes to see if we can do it. Or, hey, you were here when that took place. Do you remember what we did? And, do we owe them all this money or not? So if we don't have more accountability on these types of things, it's stuff like this is going to happen more and more often. Do you not think? We as the general public need to be more involved in these meetings. I mean, yeah, you voted somebody in, but do you know what they're doing once they get there? Just because they ran on a topic or a subject and gave you some ear candy and you were really excited and stoked about what they were talking about, and then they get in office and you never hear from them again, you don't know what they're voting on. You don't know what they're doing. Do they reach out to you during their elected time after they're in office and give you any updates or any insight as to what's going on? Do they talk to you about ideals that they're coming up with to solve problems and wanting to get your feedback as their constituents? Are they asking you what you think they should vote for? Have they done, or how hard have they worked to complete any of the issues that they ran on? Have they lowered your taxes? Have they improved your quality of life? It's things like these that, if you don't go to these meetings or you don't run into your elected official and ask them questions and let them know that you're aware and you're seeing what they're doing, I mean, you just gave them the reins to run wherever they want to, and you are busy working. You're busy running your life. You're busy running your home, your kids, your family, your job, watching watching football games or any sports, whether it's professional, college, high school. There's a saying: give them bread, give them circuses. So keep them fed and entertained. They won't ask too many questions. So I ask everybody that watches this video, let's get more involved. We need to take more action. We need to make sure that our elected officials are doing what they say and hold them accountable and make sure they're sharing what they know. I'm not talking about national security issues or public security issues. I'm talking about small issues or, all the issues that doesn't, I understand you have state secrets, but when you have fiscal court meetings, city meetings, you should be aware of what's going on. They should be getting a hold of you. I feel like they should be having town hall meetings. They should be having one-page notices sent out in the mail or put in a newspaper. That's a whole nother issue. But, you should be aware of what's going on. You need at least, these rooms need to be full when you go to these board meetings and these council meetings. You need to, if one person represents 50 to 100 people, we need to have 20, 30 people in these rooms. And that, if Powell County has a little over 9,000 registered voters, you need to be sending people in there to represent all of them. Do you know who your magistrate is? Do you know who your mayor is? Do you know who your judge executive is? Do you know who your state rep is? Do you know who your senator, your congressman, your governor, your president? Do you know all these people? Do you know what they do? So I implore you to get more involved. Again, another little thing, Brandon Farmer's doing a great thing, I think, with the animal shelter. So they do need donations, food, hay, straw, water, toys for the animals. They're making some big improvements, and it popped into my head. If you watch The Price is Right all the time, what Bob Barker would always say at the end of the show is, "Hey, have all your pets spayed and neutered." But it really goes a long way with keeping the strays down. Have these animals spayed and neutered, and we don't have these shelters full of animals. And it's Christmas time, getting near to the holidays. People are buying pets, and again, it's always that message. Don't buy your kids a puppy or a kitten because it's so cute and pretty, and then it grows up and you don't want it a year later or 6 months later, and you're getting rid of it. You're dropping it off in the woods on the side of a road, or it finds its way to a shelter, and then we have to volunteer to donate and give to this organization in order for them to take care of these stray animals. So keep that in mind. So again, we talked about a lot. Tell me what you think about commissary, jails. Tell me what you think about your local government. Tell me what you think about the infrastructure issues, water, sewer, roads. Tell me what you think about government's timeline to get things done for you, and then the timeline that they give you, and what's the difference in expectations. Tell me what you think about Hollerwood and the county being involved in owning and running that. Should it be a completely private entity? Make your comments on the Clay City Industrial Park. Let me know what you think about that. Why has that property been bought and sit there for so many years? Again, they're going to tell you it takes time and we don't have infrastructure. Well, why? How many of you have asked questions? Why? So that's a little bit. But again, also ask them why you can't see these videos as a general public. Why can't you see it? Why is it so hard for you to get the information to see these videos? Or if you want to see the minutes, you're going to have to go request them. I don't even know how many of them are reported on and put in the newspaper anymore. How easy is it for you as the general public to see and be involved in these meetings? And again, let me know what you think your elected officials are doing. When's the last time you talked to them? When's the last time you heard from them? Do you know what they're doing? So again, I'm going to work on getting these videos a little shorter. Right now we're running at 23 minutes, but I know our attention spans, we're probably going to run off in 30 seconds. But I hope some of you took the time to make it to the end of this and give us some feedback, how I can do it better, what you would like to see, and I will keep improving and making it better and get what the people want out there so that you can hear and see and make your own choices and decisions with the information that I can share with you and you can gather on your own, and any information you gather and you share with me, and then we can put it back out there and we all get involved. That's the American way. That's, I think, how the founding fathers foresaw it and intended for it to be done. So again, I thank you and give us some feedback, and have a great day.